On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, something that we don't do a lot because I don't really like to do it. But with the season Nathan MacKinnon is having and the seasons we expect from Cale Makar, is the Colorado Avalanche Mount Rushmore changing? Or should we expect it to be changing? We'll talk about that. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us over on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and make sure you're subscribed to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below. When you do, chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, share your opinions and everything Avalanche related on this very podcast. All right, sir. It's been a long break between games. It seems like a long break. This has been a vacation. Nathan MacKinnon played less than 20 minutes, and now he's had how many days off in a row? This is like a starting a brand new season for him come the weekend.
Oh, great. That worked so good for the Avalanche coming out of the All-Star break. I cannot wait.
Yeah. So something that before we were just chit-chatting before we hit record, you brought it to my attention. I really wasn't even thinking of it this way. We have a back-to-back over the weekend, and then once we come back on Monday, there's one game left in the regular season.
That's right.
Craziness.
This will be our into the weekend. We have 3 games remaining, and then we come back, new episode, new week.
There's
one game to go.
Game left. And so we looked at the schedule, and we always knew that the season would end with Edmonton, right? But we were like, oh, what's that game? If they're playing a back-to-back, that game is probably maybe on a Tuesday, Wednesday at the latest. No, that game is on Thursday. So another pretty good break. But my question is twofold. And you look at the Thursday schedule, why doesn't every single team in the NHL play on the last day? Why doesn't everybody have the same amount of days off heading into the playoffs or close to it? Because I know the playoffs start, not everybody plays the first day of the playoffs, but there's only like 4 games on, so it's not like most of these teams have off, and the Avalanche are one of the teams that are playing on the very last day. I don't know. Like, I think they could. We always have an issue with the scheduling in the NHL, but that one kind of just stuck out to me. Why not more teams are playing on the last day of the regular season?
No, honestly, it's one of those things that the NHL could easily market. It's the last time you see a good chunk of the teams. And you could just make it like the Frozen Frenzy, like when you had every team playing on it, like it's a good way to build up the hype going into the playoffs. Your last goodbyes to teams like Seattle, New Jersey, you get to see them one more time before next season. I think it's a brilliant idea, but what do I know?
Now, I don't want to complain too much because the reason why they're playing on Thursday is because Avalanche have the back-to-back on the weekend. And then Edmonton is playing Monday, and you can't play it on Tuesday. Why? Because Edmonton is playing Wednesday. So Edmonton is playing Wednesday and Thursday. So you can't slot it in there on that Tuesday because then we'd be playing 3 days in a row, and you cannot do that. So Edmonton is playing 3 games in 4 days to end the season. So that's why there's that big break. So I'm not going to complain too much because Edmonton is going to be spent 3 games in 4 days. Hey, have at it. Once again, NHL schedulers at their finest to end the season.
3 games in 4 days, and then your last game is against the Colorado Avalanche.
Right. And then maybe you have 2 days off and you're back at, game 1 of your playoff series. So pretty crazy. The end of the season is upon us, and getting excited for that postseason. But what we're going to do right now, Kyle, and I said it in the beginning in the intro, I don't like to do the Mount Rushmore thing a ton because, I'm kind of going against what I hold as like a rule for me. Like, I don't like to anoint people awards and stuff like that, or until their careers are over. because there's so many people just want to say, oh, where does this guy stand? Pick your sport. They did it with LeBron James his entire career.
Yeah.
Let the guy's career play out in totality, or when you can do it right now with guys like Ovechkin and stuff like that. You know what I mean? There's one more thing left for Ovechkin to do, and if he gets that, which you'll expect him to do, we can slot him. But when they're at certain levels, I don't like doing it. But people like this stuff, so I'll oblige for this one. I think if you've done this maybe one other time. So go ahead. Go ahead.
No, and you get the kind of tongue-in-cheek Bedard tracker every time he scores a goal. It's like
He's the
how,
next one.
yeah, it's like you see where he's on pace with Gretzky. But I think you're bringing up a wonderful a thought here. Like if the season ended, if like everything ended today, like looking at Nathan MacKinnon and what he's already done, because I think it's one of those that we talk about every single time, like coming off of Nathan MacKinnon's hat trick that he had, we take it for granted. I think once we start talking about Nathan MacKinnon and a couple of maybe some other members of this Avalanche squad where they rank on this quote unquote Mount Rushmore, I think it's an interesting conversation with everybody that we have in the hallowed halls of Mount Rushmore as it currently exists.
It is. I mean, it is interesting to kind of at least discuss it because, for the Avalanche, like the Mount Rushmore is Joe Sakic, Patrick Waugh, Peter Forsberg, and then you can kind of fill in the blank for your fourth. I think the fourth is kind of like up for debate. And right now, I'm saying like they did it with LeBron James. You mentioned Connor Bedard. People are already doing it with Cale Makar. People are thinking like, oh, by the time and that one I completely understand because he's pretty much got every record defensively for the Avalanche already. So yes, that I can understand people wanting to slot him in there now. With the season Nathan MacKinnon is having, if he does get this MVP and stock that on the shelf, and continues to have a career that is on this trajectory, when it is all said and done, do both of these guys does knock one somebody off? Do two of these guys knock two of the guys? I think Sakic and Forsberg, excuse me, Sakic and Waugh are set in stone. It is Mount Rushmore after all. I don't think you can move those guys no matter what. I think Forsberg here and Forsberg is my favorite player of all time. So this is not a knock on him. This is more of what these two guys are doing and could do by the end of their career. I think just stats wise, maybe supplant him. And this is where Forsberg not playing as long maybe comes in, and that's the reason why. It's not a knock on him whatsoever.
And no, it's a wonderful thought because the way you're talking about it right there, you have Sakic and Waugh on one half of Mount Rushmore. And then you're going to theoretically have Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar on the other half. And then like the ghostly apparitions standing on top of Mount Rushmore will be Peter Forsberg over here and Gabe Landeskog over here. So
that's an interesting. Yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
It's two players with injury problems that have kept them off of this glorious fictitious mountainside.
Yeah.
It's Gabe Landeskog and Peter Forsberg, parallels between the two dynasty teams.
I think the last time we did this, Gabe Landeskog was fully healthy, was not out for as long as he is, and he was being in the conversation. If he plays out his career, be the longest tenured captain ever. Maybe the stats won't be there, but he would be on there just for what he meant to the organization. That's all in limbo right now. I like with the 2 seasons off. We don't know how he's going to come back. This is where we say like, hey, he's a perfect example of why I like playing this thing all out, because look what's happened. And you have 2 guys right now with Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar who are just, it's unbelievable what they are doing. And I think when it's all said and done, it's gonna be tough to keep them off of that.
And I'll raise you a question here, Chris, my good friend, on this Fun Zone Friday. Let's say I'm Meisterburger from the bad guy from that Rudolph special, and I outlaw fun for the rest of time. There can only be one. Nathan MacKinnon or Cale Makar. Who gets on that Mount Rushmore right now if not another game is played?
Not another game. Oh, wow.
And tell me why it's not Cale Makar.
I don't. God, that is such a tough question, and I don't think I don't think I could. I think just based on the awards that they have received, and then everything else is the same as far as cups go. They've obviously haven't won the same amount of cups. I mean, where Cale Makar is defensively, ranking wise, it's
I
tough. It's tough to
I
put that
think
on
he
Nathan
would get the
MacKinnon.
nod. I
I
think
think he
Cale
might.
Makar would get the nod. It would be Peter Forsberg, Joe Sakic, Patrick Waugh, and honestly, the best defenseman in Avalanche history, Cale
Yeah,
Makar.
yeah, it's a very good point. But I think at the end of this, cups will matter.
Mhm.
If this goes out and their careers and they just have that one, there's gonna be a lot of people like, no, like I can't add either one of those. Maybe Cale Makar, I can still add Makar,
That's very, very true.
but I can't add Nathan MacKinnon to it, and that's where stats come into play. And right now, if you look at Joe Sakic's stats compared to Nathan MacKinnon's, MacKinnon is a little bit past the halfway point of everything when it comes to him compared to Joe Sakic. Sakic had 1,378 games played, while Nathan MacKinnon has 788. So it's more than half, right?
Mhm.
And you would think Nathan MacKinnon is about halfway through his career, right? Maybe a year past it, right around
You
the
never
halfway
know.
point.
You never know. Yeah.
That is true. That is true. You never know, but full career, we're thinking maybe a little bit right around the halfway point. He is Joe Sakic had 625 goals, Nathan MacKinnon 335. So he's on a pretty good pace to beat that. Assists 1,016 for Joe Sakic, 561 for Nathan MacKinnon. So a little bit more than halfway. And points obviously would be the same. It was 1641 to 8. He's just shy of 900 points as Nathan. He's
Yeah.
four
He's
more points for 900.
4 more points.
So he could eclipse the great Joe Sakic. I'm not saying he'd remove Joe Sakic from Mount Rushmore. Joe Sakic is, like I said, he is there. But if he beats him in those 3 categories, he is on there. You cannot keep him off there. And I think if he has the 1 cup, that's enough to bring him on there.
Ooh.
It's tough. I hear the Forsberg people being like, no. And I'm with you because that's my guy.
Yeah, he's my guy too.
But this is kind of stats. And then if he gets the heart, you have that in your back pocket.
And then
It's an interesting topic.
And then Cale Makar has already done so many defensive records already.
Mhm.
Like you're talking about Nathan MacKinnon chasing Joe Sakic. Cale Makar has already chased and defeated. He's already there. So you're talking about all-time Avalanche. That's Cale Makar, and he's already done it, and he's got so much more to go. So I kind of feel like he has the current edge on Nathan MacKinnon now. Nathan MacKinnon has so much to prove, and Cale Makar, he's already done it, and he's playing with house money at this point.
True. A couple people from Sudtext when I get them in. Vargar, Sakic, Forsberg, Waugh, and Makar. If Nate wants to bump someone off, he needs another cup and a Conn Smythe. Okay.
Valid.
All right. I can't argue with that. And then Easton says, he goes, I've only been watching hockey since the end of the 48-point season. Well, right there, Easton, I give you credit for sticking with it. If that was your first season.
Yeah.
So I have no frame of reference for the older Avs. I know that their stats of the conference finals and getting 2 cups close together is really impressive, and everyone holds Waugh, Sakic, and Forsberg in high regard. That being said, if Mac is able to break the single season points record for Quebec and Colorado, he has to be up there. That's another thing that we haven't mentioned, man. Like that could happen this weekend, where he has the overall points in a season record for the franchise. That's huge. That holds a lot of weight. And the record he would be beating is from the Quebec era, not the Avalanche. This is all like total.
And that's also rarefied air when we're talking Stasny stats.
Yes, it doesn't happen a lot. So it's a fun conversation. We'll see how it all plays out. We'll be front and center for all of it, hopefully. But I'm looking forward to seeing some comments on this. So I'm sure a lot of people agree with us with the Makar thing. Where's the MacKinnon part go? Remains to be seen. All right. The Athletic, we did this before too. This is a fun Friday show, Kyle. So the Athletic did something, when was it? Like before, maybe in the off season, people wrote in rule changes that they would like to see. And these are fun. So everybody that takes everything seriously, you're not going to like this because they're kind of fun, but there's a few in here that could maybe be fun and interesting and good rule changes. We will bring them up and we will give our takes on them, and we'll do that coming up next. All right, we got a new sponsor for you today, and that is Policy Genius. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. And with Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help you talk you through it. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step. And if you have life insurance, you may not be as well covered as you might think. Your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs. And Policy Genius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonnhl or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonnhl. All right, let's get to this Athletic. They call it the NHL Rules Courts, and there's 3 writers that they have over there, and you just send them an email with a maybe half fun, half, hey, I really want this to happen rule, and they kind of vote on it. And they're creative people out there, I have to say, with and some of them maybe should be in positions of power with the NHL and their rules department. So let's get into these and kind of give your opinion on them. Okay, here's the first one. Have the higher seeded playoff teams draft their opponent, meaning the top seed in each conference would have to have the right to choose any other team as their first round matchup. That could be the worst team according to record, but could also be a team that was viewed as an easier matchup due to injuries, slumps, head-to-head history, etc. Especially after the PWHL announced that they would be adopting this rule, which I was not aware of. Pretty just for the first round. This is not something to do like over and over again, but to give that number 1 seed the little bit more of the opportunity to move on, you would think. And if the team you pick, that's you picked us. That's like the picking last in dodgeball, right? Now you got something to fight for. What do you think of this one?
I don't like it. I don't want teams to. What do you expect? ESPN's going to get a hold of it. We're going to have a press conference for your Dallas Stars, and they announce they're going to pick. No, I kind of just want go back to old playoff seeding and run it that way. Doing this extra picking thing, and it's going to be kind of goofy, and you're going to fire up the team that you pick, and when they beat you, and it's going to be embarrassing, and maybe it'll carry on some rivalry stuff, but I don't know. I don't need this extra layer of sideshow when you can't even put together a schedule. So,
but the only, I don't mind this, to be totally honest with you. And you look at, you always hear a lot of people right now are like, oh, the Dallas Stars is going to be number 1 and they're going to pull Vegas, and Vegas is going to get all their people back. This would avoid that. Dallas would be like, nope, we don't want Vegas first round. I don't know if you're saying you're afraid of Vegas, though. That's the other thing you might be saying out loud. But the onus that they would put on it is, well, no, we match up better against fill in the blank, LA or something like that. So It's an interesting one. Not going to happen. I don't think any of these are going to happen, but it's an interesting one. This one's on the, we heard a lot lately with Minnesota pulling the goalie in overtime, and then it worked once where they got the goal. The second time was actually against Vegas. It didn't work. You lose that overtime point if you pull the goalie and the other team scores, which I think 99% of us did not know was actually a rule. And thank you, Minnesota, for making us aware of that. So why do teams lose a point if they pull the goalie in OT and get scored on? Instead, if a team pulls their goalie in OT and they score on their opponent, that should make their opponent lose that point in overtime. So you're telling the other team, even though you got the point, we pulled our goalie, scored on you, you don't get any points. What do you think?
I do like the idea of getting rid of the loser point. If this is the way you do it, sure. Sign me up.
The only thing is, what happens if both teams pull a goalie? Both teams just be like, well, then we're just going to both pull our goalie. And then what? It's just business as usual. And whoever scores, and you still get the loser point. And the other team gets the second point.
I say nobody gets a loser point.
I don't know if you could do it that way.
You're getting into like the crazy, like, just go back to 5 playoff overtime and just playoff overtime and just keep it simple.
We'll get to a playoff game 7 in a moment. Actually, it's the next one up. This one is a little bit bonkers, Kyle. You know what? I'm going to make people wait. Let's get to a break. And when we come back, this one could be one of the craziest ones. Again, won't ever happen, but just think about it. We're going to do this one next. All right, first, let's hear from Indeed. And when you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could handpick the best stars for your business team? If you're building your talent roster, then you need Indeed. Indeed is a hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching assessments and virtual interviews. If you hate waiting, Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/locked-on to start hiring now. Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. And if you need to hire, then you need Indeed. We are also brought to you by Factor. Bringing back Factor. Eat stress-free this spring with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including popular options like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or Vegan and Veggie. Also discover more than 60 add-ons every week, like breakfast, on-the-go lunch, snacks, and beverages to help you stay fueled and feel good all day long. What are you waiting for? Get started today and fuel up your springtime goals. Head to factormeals.com/lockedon NHL50. Use the code LOCKEDON NHL50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box. That code is LOCKEDON NHL50. The website is factormeals.com/lockedon NHL50. And you get 50% off of your first box plus 20% off your next box while your subscription is active over at Factor. All right, back to the rules court and a very interesting Game 7 playoff scenario rule here. It starts. Overtime playoff hockey is the best. Game 7s are also the best. Combine the two, and you have the best, most entertaining scenario in all of sports. All Game 7s in the playoffs start as overtime. Skipping the normal 3 regulation periods, Game 7 is the next goal wins, ending in a 1-0 score. Could you buy a Game 7 ticket and only get treated to 5 minutes of hockey? Yes, that's the risk. But you also know that you would be on the edge of your seat the entire time. It would be worth it. Wow. Imagine that, Kyle. Go to MSG and buy a $2,000 seat, and you're there for 30 seconds. But you got a story to tell.
See, reading this, I was like, this would be lunacy. But then I'm going to
Yeah.
raise this one more. What you
Okay.
do to make this work and probably save the NHL, Game 6. If you force a Game 7, Game 7 starts as soon as the Game 6 is over. You go from the team ahead. You go
Yeah,
from the team ahead in the series to you could be knocked out of the playoffs in one go. Complete flip, an
that's fun.
absolute push to you're up. You want to win, you have to, because if you don't, you lose in that arena. Like
Mhm.
Game 6 prices could go through the roof. Game
Yeah,
6 will be the new thing to watch because Game 7 becomes like overtime, golden goal, decide it there. You're already tired, you're already whooped. This is what you want. I think
that's fun.
this would be awesome.
That would be, I mean, guys are already spent, game 6 could have went triple overtime.
Exactly.
And then you got to start right away. What about this? You use this guy's example. Game 7, not right after a game 6. Game 7, you have this sudden death style, but why not play out the period? You know what I mean? Like if a team scores in the first 30 seconds, still play a full 20 minutes. And then you know that because the end of that would be exciting.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like you'd have a goalie pulled, and if it's down, or if the team scores 2, game over. Or should you? Or should you just play out the period? I think if the team scores 2, it's over. And if it's 1-1, then it's sudden death. Then it's the next score wins.
What you should do, first team that scores,
Yeah.
if the score is tied at the end of the first period, they win.
Okay. So
Let's say
uh,
Colorado and Vegas are playing.
okay.
Colorado scores the first goal.
Yeah.
They play out that first period. If it's a 1-1 tie at the end of the period,
Yeah.
Colorado wins because they scored the
Why?
first goal.
Oh. Oh. I don't know if I like that
Because
too
then you're going to
much.
go into a tie at the end of the period. Then what are you doing? You're
Well,
adding on more time.
but then if after one period, if we are tied, then it's next goal wins. We're not doing this every period. Then it is next goal wins. If you came back and tied it, play out the period. If you came back and tied it, now we are true sudden death. Now people get a little bit of their money's worth. And then that'd be exciting hockey. Next goal.
I
Yeah.
feel like it would give a little bit of a push if like the Avalanche do win because they got that first goal. Vegas
Yeah.
would keep pushing and pushing because then after you're going to carry over into period 2 of 0-0.
Well, I mean, what if you're the team that was down 1-0 and you fought back and there's like 2 minutes left, you pull your goalie and you get a goal to tie it, only to lose? I don't like that. I don't like that.
Just
No. All right. This is why it's talking points.
we're
It's
trying
interesting.
to fix like playoff overtime. Let me be clear. Playoff overtime is perfect in
Needs no
its form.
changes.
It
Yeah.
needs nothing adjusted. But
Yeah.
if we did,
Right. Um, I'll skip over that one. So here's one about the draft. And it goes into a lengthy explanation, but I'm just going to try to paraphrase it here. So it says, combine the entry draft with the expansion style draft format that allows teams to not only draft newly eligible players, but also veterans from other teams. Each offseason's teams must submit a list of 14 protected players from their rosters, including pending UFAs and RFAs. Similar to the expansion draft years, all other players are now unprotected, regardless of no movement clauses. And then you kind of have a draft of the new rookies and the prospects, and you can still tap into expansion style drafts. It's kind of like free agency with a twist, and combining it with the entry draft. Different. I don't know
it's
if that would ever fly, but that's different.
There's no way it could possibly work.
Yeah, it'd be way too. I mean, that would be a week-long draft. I would feel like, geez, that'd take forever.
Yeah, and with the way the salary cap is, I just don't see how you can make it work. Great idea, but let's not complicate the draft any more than it already is, and you don't want an expansion every year. Like it's rough enough when we have to go through it.
Yeah,
So
I don't want to be doing that every year. Guys that you really like, like, are we protecting them, not protecting them? We went through it twice. That was enough. It seems like we're going to be going through it again in however many years, but that's on the horizon as well. But who knows? Let's see. All right, two more here. The NHL brings back ties, but with a twist. In the regular season, part of the having home ice advantage means at the end of regulation, if the game is tied, the coach of the home team can decide if he wants to end the game with a tie or go to overtime, potentially lose the 1 point in the standings, because there's no loser point in this reality. But there are only 2 points up for grabs in each game. The visiting team doesn't know what the home team will choose and has the incentive to keep pressing at the end of the third period if they need 2 points to stay alive. But when the coach of the home team chooses a tie, his fans might boo him like a football team that kicked a 10-yard field goal instead of trying to go for a touchdown. It also gives something for the post-game call and shows the debate. Why didn't they go for two and all the other fun stuff? So I don't like this one at all.
no, you lost me as soon as you said bring back ties.
Yeah,
It would have been
I'm with you
automatically
there.
no.
Even when he said with a twist, I'm like, yeah, but you still got ties in there.
Nope.
So I'm with you there. I'm so glad the ties are gone. Don't ever bring them back. And no matter how good your idea might be, the word tie is in there. I'm not a fan.
No, I'm not even Ty Domi.
No. And here's the last one. I would like to propose that if the goalie commits a penalty, he needs to serve the penalty and go to the box. Let the backup come in for those 2 minutes. This one, I am all for, Shaggy Von Doom. Goalies get away with everything. And I get they should be protected because they're kind of on an island out there. And, they're open to a lot of injuries. But sometimes they do dumb things, Jordan Binnington, and you need to sit in the sin bin. So go over there with all your gear and let the cold backup come in for 2 minutes and get peppered. And then when play stoppage, wherever there's a stoppage and you're out of the box, you can go back in. I love this. Let's adopt it next year.
I love it conceptually. I just know it's going to be a big slowdown, and then trying to get those pillows into the box is going to be fun.
All of that's great.
They look
like fools going in.
I say do one more level, keep the goalie in, but they elect what they lose for 2 minutes: pad, the glove, or their stick.
God.
It goes to the box, and they just pan over, and there's like a glove sitting in the penalty box, and you have to fend off your power play with one less piece of equipment.
I like that.
You sit there and you tell the ref, okay, here, you hand in your stick, and you have to, for 2 minutes, have only glove.
Perfect. Problem solved. One of those two is great. What you could do is if they can't get into the penalty box, just have them go to the bench. They can go to the bench for 2 minutes because they still got to hold the door.
True.
Do their job. But I love it. I love it. I think they should serve penalties. And if they commit one, go to the box or go to the bench. But your your thought is very with that. Wow. 2 minutes for that. But what happens like if after the 2 minutes, do we just stop play so they can get it back?
Yeah,
or
you do it like
keep playing until
you have a guy on the
stoppage?
bench. You have a guy on the bench, like you give it away, and then just like when you go back to full strength, they slide that stick or they slide that
Just
pad
throw it out.
all the way back, and you get to watch that. It's just fun. It's entertaining, and
Oh, that
the
would be
goalie
great.
just feels like a moron for committing the penalty. And guess
Exactly.
what? You learn.
He won't do it again. Can guarantee you that. Wow. Okay. Fire away, people. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments in this one, and I look forward to reading them. So, all right, that's going to wrap it up for today. Big weekend for the Avs. What's going on right now? I know the Stars. If they win that game, we have our first round matchup if they win the game, they're playing the Jets as we're recording this. Let me just take a look at that score.
3-0 Winnipeg.
3. Okay. So they are now tied, right, with the Avs, I believe, in terms of points. And they have the tiebreaker on the Avs. So big weekend for the Avs. Big 4 points. They need them all. So we will be talking about that come Monday. Thank you for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Have a good weekend. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on Monday.